business studies. I know we were all so eager after the last lesson to get right back to it. So let's get back right to it. So your do now today is just a little word scramble. Okay, should only take you 4 minutes. Okay, there's even a couple little hints in there if you look at how the grammar of it is structured. Okay, so give yourself 4 minutes. I'll stop talking just for 10 seconds just so you can hit the pause button. Okay, so let's go on with it. Okay, so we had our little scramble. Let's see what the answers are. So it went outsourcing, strategic, functions, domestic, global, stakeholder, society, government, union, technological. Okay, now the reason all of those words are important is they are all words lifted straight from your syllabus for this human resources topic. Okay, and this is what I mean by the syllabus has everything that you need. Okay, so what we might do for our next do now is we're actually going to start putting little elements of the syllabus in order, and you have to determine which one goes first and things like that. Like I've said for a couple of last lessons, you need to know your syllabus back to front, including the order that it goes in. Okay, so let's keep on going on. So what we are going to do today is we're going to have a look at outsourcing again for human resources. Now, outsourcing is definitely something that we are familiar with. We covered it quite extensively when we were doing operations and things like that. However, it does have a different relationship when we're looking at it in a human resources light. Okay, so for those of you that might have drifted off or slept through operations, or maybe it just seems like it's 2 years behind you, okay, what is outsourcing? Well, it's when a business takes a part of a key function and gives it to another company to perform. Okay, so it happens quite commonly in businesses, especially big businesses, where they don't want to be distracted from their core business functions, and they might give smaller parts of their business away to another business to do for them. Okay, so basically they're not going to be distracted from their main task. Okay, so if we're looking at McDonald's and things like that, McDonald's outsources a lot of the logistics for maintaining its supply lines and ensuring that it constantly keeps on getting food to all of its franchisees. Okay, so the franchisee or the store doesn't really want to focus on, am I going to get the burgers in today? I have to hire a driver for that and everything, blah, blah, blah. No, they're just going to outsource this to another business and make sure that they have everything that they need so they can focus on their core business function, which is making, I'd say, good food, but that's a bit of a high standard for McDonald's. Okay, so let's keep on going. So one of the questions that we might ask is, why are we talking about outsourcing again? Okay, so when we're talking about outsourcing in HR, we are talking really about 2 key points. Okay, that's meant to say we are, not why are. Great English. Okay, we are talking about 2 key points. Okay, first of all, why a business might choose to outsource the function of human resources. And the second one, what are contractors regarding HR, and should your business hire a domestic or a foreign one? Okay, now keep in mind, as per the syllabus, they don't tend to use foreign, they tend to say global. So in this context, when they're saying foreign or global, they tend to be talking in that same synonym. Okay, so this is the 2 things that we are going to be concentrating on this lesson. Okay, now keep in mind this lesson is relatively short because there is a Zoom after this lesson and it's not actually that much to learn for this. So, why should we outsource HR? Okay, well, the management of HR resources is complex, especially of HR law, and therefore outsourcing this to a specialist makes common sense. Okay, you're going to access greater expertise. So if you're not sure with all these workplace relations laws and hiring laws and blah, 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 it makes perfect sense for you to basically hire someone from the outside and basically go, right, you just deal with this. I don't want to deal with this. I just want to deal with the core business functions, okay? Which goes straight on to our second dot point. It allows us to concentrate on our prime functions, okay? So we know that we don't need to have a whole bunch of HR managers running around for us. We should just basically just go, I just want to focus on my prime business. I don't want to do this job myself, so I'm going to hire someone else to do it for me, okay? The third reason is it helps us reduce costs in the business. So you might see this quite commonly. Small businesses, for example, they might not need a HR business manager every single day of the week. So rather than employing one, they're just going to go, okay, we're just going to outsource it for every second or third day of the week for the business. Okay, and it helps reduce those expenses. And sometimes when you're outsourcing, especially to contractors, as we might look at, as we will look at later on this lesson, it can really help drive down those costs. Okay. So, why outsource HR? So when we're watching this, I really want you to take down your notes. Okay, so why outsource HR?
Outsourcing your HR needs. In a nutshell. Most small to medium-sized business owners know the frustration of spending more time than they want to on activities that don't generate income for the company. Outsourcing your HR needs may not suit all businesses, but for many, it can give them access to specialist skills and knowledge, reduce risk, and provide savings on cost, because an in-house HR person is no longer needed, or freeing up the person that covers the function to allow them to focus on work that does generate income. What sort of services might you need then? At the very least, you will need to ensure that you meet your legal requirements in terms of health and safety, policies, and contracts. You may need additional help in setting up performance management processes or dealing with employee relations issues, such as legal claims, redundancy, and restructuring the businesses, grievances, and maybe dismissals. How much does an outsourced service cost then? You should always establish up front the way in which the service is going to be billed. Providers should be able to give you an estimate of cost, or at least a range of costs for a specific project, whilst ongoing support services are normally supplied on a retained basis, with either a monthly fixed fee or an agreed hourly rate. However the service is set up, you should ensure you receive an itemised billing report so that you can see exactly what you're paying for, and this allows you to decide if you're getting value for money. But when does it make sense for you to outsource? If your admin processes are slowing down the productivity of your company, it's time to consider outsourcing the management of your human resources. Whilst outsourcing doesn't suit all businesses, for some, it's the best way to ensure that what is arguably their most valuable asset is well managed, freeing you up to concentrate on your core business and generate income.
So as we can see there, that example actually comes from the UK or the United Kingdom. But you can also see...
Outsourcing.
You can also see that around the world, a lot of HR remains the same, okay? And it's especially in regards to outsourcing, well, why should we do it? So it frees the business to do those things that actually allow it to earn an income and deal with its prime functions. Okay, that's why we outsource stuff. That's why we outsource HR. But keep in mind, HR, and it's a very easily overlooked business function. It's probably the least respected of the business functions because people sort of look at it as a wishy-washy one. Nobody's actually sure what they do. But if it's poorly managed, as Michael Green was saying, you're going to lose your best assets really quickly. And we'll have a look at that later on in this lesson. Okay, so that's why we might outsource for HR. Who should we outsource to? Now, normally when a business wants a job done, they will hire an employee. This has special legal status in the Australian context, so let's have a look at the table below for the differences. Okay. Now, in between we have employee and an independent contractor, and we'll have a look at independent contractor in a little bit more detail as well. Okay. So the first difference between an employee and an independent contractor is the length of employment. So if you have an employee, what their employment's going to be is regular and continuous. So they're going to come in for 5 days a week, and they are going to keep on coming in until you fire them, okay, or until they're made redundant, or until they're dismissed, basically, okay. An independent contractor, however, you can effectively just say to them, you are here until this job is done, or you are here for a very finite amount of time and we can basically get rid of you anytime we want. Okay? So you can see that there's quite a big legal distinction between there. Okay? Now, for income, an employee is subject to negotiated wage agreement or award conditions. Okay? So basically, when an employee is hired, they are offered what their award is going to be, and every single year or a certain amount of time they can renegotiate that award agreement, okay, or award conditions and wage agreement, and sort of try and get one up. They are also entitled to their regular CPI increase, which is basically that your wage is going to keep up with the cost of living, which keeps on going up every year, and that's a legal entitlement. Okay. An independent contractor, however, you have a fixed agreed rate, which is agreed upon at the start of whatever their contract is. It's basically, we are going to pay you this, and we are generally not going to renegotiate that. You get the job done for that amount. Okay. For workers' compensation, for an employee, insurance and protection are provided by the employer. So what does it mean by that? So, for example, let's just say something really bad happened in the classroom. I was plugging something in and the PowerPoint shocked me and I had a really bad day and I had to go into hospital. Okay. Well, the school covers my insurance in regards to that. Okay. They protect me and they would help pay for some of the misfortune that has occurred to me, and they would also pay for my sick leave in regards to that. Okay. However, with an independent contractor, they provide their own insurance. Okay, so they have to insure themselves. No other business is going to insure them. Okay, so if they muck up, they better make sure that their own insurance is pretty good. For tax, an employer is responsible for pay or pay as you go, tax deductions and superannuation. So when you get paid as an employee, you don't have to really worry about tax and putting everything aside for your superannuation and blah, blah, blah. Your employer is legally required to do that for you. Okay, if you're an independent contractor, you have to pay your own tax. Okay, you are responsible for figuring out how much tax you have to pay. This means that tax is paid in regular installments throughout the year, often every 3 months. Okay, and if you don't pay your taxes, you know what happens. For legal entitlements, if you're an employee, you're subject to government legislation. That means you get your sick leave, maternity and paternity leave, annual leave, and long service leave. Okay, and all of these things are subject as to what employee type you are. For example, if you're part-time or you're full-time, things like that. Obviously, you're full-time, you're going to get more sick leave than a part-time one, but you have these entitlements as an employee. As a contractor, it's a bit more difficult. You have no legal entitlements from the organisation seeking the contractor's services. There are no on-costs such as workers' compensation insurance, long service leave, and sick leave entitlements. So let's say that you were contracted to do a building job. If you cannot do the job on that day because you are dreadfully sick at home, you cannot call in as a sickie. You basically call the employer and basically go, I can't come in today, I can't finish the job, and they go, okay, well, we're just not paying you for today. Simple. Okay, so now this is a really important one. Be careful who you outsource to. It could have terrible consequences for your business, okay? Bit of a light-hearted video, but you have to be really careful who you outsource HR to, because like we were saying before, it's really important, and they deal with a lot of nitty-gritty, confidential stuff that if you say the wrong thing, it can go really bad for you.
Jeff Rogers. How I hate thee. Okay. What? Jesus. Kidding me? Of course. Gotcha. Again, Maury, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Yes. What? I was barely late. Peas.
Hey, Jeff, what are you doing? Where's Jeff?
He fell off Runyon.
What?
He's one of those guys who jog right on the edge of the trail. So honestly, it was only a matter of time. Anyway, he's fine. Just broke his leg in 3 places. And I'm filling in for HR.
Are you qualified for that?
To listen to people complain about who moved my sandwich to the second shelf of the break room fridge, yeah. I think so. Sit. So, who pissed you off today?
Nobody. I just came to disclose something, actually, but you know what? I'm gonna wait for Jeff.
Oh, come on, Amanda. We're both busy professional women. We have reports to file, schedules to keep. Just tell me what's on your mind.
Well, okay. I'm pregnant.
Oh, I am so sorry.
No, it's a good thing, actually. It's fine.
Oh, if you say so.
Patrick is the father, so we just wanted to put our relationship on record.
You got knocked up by Patrick from IT?
Yeah, this was not a good idea.
Oh, it's a little late for that now.
I meant telling you.
It's a little late for that, too. Wow. Ugh, Patrick. I'm sure your genetics will balance out that weird thing he's got going on the left side of his face. You've got great features.
This is inappropriate.
Oh, do you want a shower? I can order a sheet cake.
Yeah, please do nothing.
Mazel. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. Bastard. 1, 2.
So, as you can see, HR deals with a lot of delicate stuff. Now, most people will think that they just do these sort of grievance studies and things like that, but when you're dealing with the personal lives of your employees, it's quite an important feature as well. Besides just the restructuring and managing of pay and things like that, HR is going to be pretty invested in their employees' personal lives, and you have to have someone that's really good at it and is not going to say an insulting thing. Obviously, the video is a perfect example of everything not to say in HR, okay? So you have to be very delicate with how you deal with things. And if you're a people person and you know your way to talk around people, HR might be a career path for you. But let's keep on moving. So what I want you to do is I want you to make a table listing the pros and cons of contractors against employees, okay? So basically, what are the pros and cons of hiring contractors instead of employees for a job? Now, a little tip I can give you is a supply or a casual teacher, as we call them in Australia, are contractors of the Department of Education, New South Wales, whilst your normal teachers are employees. So what I want you to do, I'll give you, let's say, 3 or 4 minutes to fill out that table. Just a couple of dot points, nothing long, okay? What are the pros and cons for hiring a contractor instead of an employee for a job? I'll be quiet for 10 seconds. but take about 4 minutes to do it. So there can be a number of pros and cons for hiring a contractor instead of an employee for a job, okay? Let's put it to you this way, okay? As the video showed us, if you're outsourcing or you're getting just that random contractor in to do that job for you, one of the big cons is you really don't have any control over their quality production, okay? So Jeff ended up breaking his leg. Now, in that particular case, this woman was just covering for him over a sick leave thing. But if they got a contractor in, okay, they can have a guess and say this person's resume is really good. But with a contractor, you just don't know what the quality assurance is going to be like, okay? And you have to go with your gut on it, okay? Meanwhile, if you're an employee, they are a regular person, okay, in your business, and you have a very large amount of control over what they can and cannot do and what their abilities are, okay? Another con of contractors tends to be that as opposed to employees, contractors tend to demand quite a lot of money up front, okay? Now, I can put it to you this way. A casual teacher might only have to work about a week and a half to earn what I earn in 2 weeks' time. Now, you might say to me, well, why don't you just go and become a casual teacher then? You could earn more money. But that's not the point. The problem is that casual teachers do not always have work. They're contractors. They only get contracted when there's a sick person and basically they're hired for that day, okay? If you're using contractors all the time, you will quickly find that you'll be losing money rather than saving money because contractors demand a higher service because they don't know if they're going to have a job the next day. So they're going to demand a higher fee. Meanwhile, employees, yes, you will have to pay them every single day, but you get to negotiate with them what you are paying them and then further ensure that you're going to be paying this regular rate and you can also account for it, okay? It's not going to come as a massive surprise for you, okay? So there's lots of different pros and cons to hiring contractors instead of employees for a job. And basically, as the HR manager, you have to work out, well, which one do you actually need? Do you need someone to stick around for that job? Well, if you need someone to stick around for that job and you want to basically cement them in, then you want an employee, not a contractor, okay? Because the moment the job is done for a contractor, they're gone. If you've got an employee, there's a whole bunch of enticements or incentives that you can offer for them to stay. Okay, so lots of different pros and cons for each. Okay, now the last part that we look at here is when you're hiring contractors, do you want to go domestic or global? Okay, now most businesses will use domestic subcontractors. However, because of global pressures, many Australian businesses are now subcontracting globally. There are pros and cons to this as well, however. Okay, so when we're looking at global subcontractors, of course, we're looking at foreign subcontractors. Okay, what are our pros? Well, we know this one pretty easily from our role in operations, okay? If you're getting a global subcontractor, for example, like Foxconn, okay, you're going to have usually cheaper labour. And those countries that you're hiring those subcontractors from, there could be different labour and environmental laws in their country, which may allow actions that are not allowed in Australia. Okay, now, if that sounds suspicious, that's because it is. Okay, and if you're going to be one of these businesses that are doing the subcontracting in other countries because you know that you can get away with other things and treating your workers in a different manner that you wouldn't treat them to in Australia, it's going to be dangerous to your CSR if people find out. Okay. What are the cons of global subcontracting? Well, there's difficulty controlling the quality and reliability of the service. They could be half a world away and you don't have that direct control over them. They're a subcontractor. They get to do whatever they want as long as they get the job done. And you can't really tell if the job is done properly. There can be cultural differences such as language or accent issue, which may impact on customer service. We talked about this a lot. So for example, Telstra in the late 90s and early 2000s really subcontracted a lot of its help services out to global subcontractors, particularly in the subcontinent. And it's led to a massive amount of people, of Australian customers, basically saying, we can't understand what your subcontractors are saying, therefore we're not getting good service. Okay? And there's also security issues such as opportunities for sharing confidential company information and client poaching. Because if you've got subcontractors, you better hope that they're trustworthy. You can do a bit of research into it, but ultimately you're not going to be 100% secure. Okay? And if you're outsourcing to these global subcontractors and they're not trustworthy, there's a really big risk that a lot of your information that you're requiring them to do outsourcing with is going to go straight to the competition in what's called corporate espionage, which is basically corporate spying or business spying. Okay, so the dangers of outsourcing globally. So MNCs, or multinational corporations, outsourcing their operations abroad to third-party vendors or manufacturers, for example, risks the integrity of their information and processes. It's basically putting the fox in charge of the hen house. Okay. For instance, pharmaceutical companies' products are prone to criminals counterfeiting their products or accessed by a market competitor exploiting the vulnerability of third-party vendors through bribery or otherwise. This is particularly so in countries with weak IP regulation, IP being intellectual property, frameworks such as India. Okay, so if you're going to be outsourcing your HR, especially in a different global context, you have to be aware that corporate espionage is a very real risk. Okay, now that's pretty much it finished for this dot point. What I will get you to go on to now is finish any of the work that you haven't, and then please remember that we have our Zoom meeting. If you don't know where it is in Google Classroom along the time where it's starting. This may have gone slightly over, so don't be worried if you walk into the Zoom meeting slightly late. It's basically just for us to answer any questions that you might have. Hope you have a great day, and I will see you soon.